And thanks, Arul. So I will get into the ANDON Backboard that we have in our system. And I'll first start by sharing my screen. Okay, so with the MES features being heavily added into the application, one of the requests that had come out of that implementation of MES was, why not let us do ANDON calls from the line, right? And that's the reason we added this feature into our shop floor viewer. This request did come from one of our customers. So what I'll walk through now is basically how this was implemented and do a quick presentation of how that looks like on the from a shop floor viewer standpoint. So the first thing I want to talk about is Proplanner shop floor execution solutions. As some of you may be aware, we have multiple execution level solutions being offered by Proplanner. Right from configured work instructions to tracking the unit, collecting data from the unit, to publishing torque settings to the unit, doing PFE e-kitting in Kanban, having repair flows tied to the unit. With all of those capabilities, we've now also added the ANDON, issuing ANDON calls to the line using our shop floor viewer, right? So that's that was a natural progression from having each operator on the line access to our work instruction viewer, our shop floor viewer. So the thought was that with that level of access, why not use that application to also generate ANDON calls on the line? So that's basically the history behind why this came to be. For those who are not familiar with the overall shop floor rollout or execution piece of Proplanner, just a quick summary of how that works. Proplanner sits in between product design and execution typically. So product design means EBOMs, ECOs. You've gone through the presentations this morning. That's what we were trying to say, that we receive EBOMs and bill of materials from external systems. We use those bills of material and we create a process in Proplanner. That process consumes parts. That process has model option mapping, time studies, line balancing, just like we were talking about in the previous line balancing discussion. So that configured bill of material that arrives from the engineering system is consumed. The process for that configured bill of material is created, and that leads to us creating a configured process, which has all of that information tied to it, right from parts to tools and so on. And that configured process is now sent downstream to the shop floor for displaying work instructions, for collecting data on the unit, for any kind of shop floor level integration like ANDON, for controlling the torque tools, and for creating Kanban and kitting calls on the line. So that's the basic setup of Proplanner and why this is a part of Proplanner. So I would just start with ANDON. For those who are not familiar with ANDON, so ANDON is basically a system on the floor that lets the operators pause production or raise an issue tied to a production. And typically, it's for a critical issue or line down kind of a situation. So basically, you're raising a flag, you're causing an alert that to catch attention of others on the line, be it the line lead, the supervisors, or the engineers, and have them come in and review the issue on the line. You also want to document that issue. You want to go to the root cause behind that issue and do further analysis with it. So basically, that requirement of having to raise an issue is what drove us to use the shop floor viewer and the accessibility that the operators have to the shop floor viewer, to be a system that allows them to raise that issue. So major components of an ANDON system are creating the alert or raising the issue, notifying and displaying the issue so that everyone's aware of it, closing the issue once it's resolved, and then to document it and have to do future analysis with it as to why we are having these issues on the line. So those were the components given to us from the customer who wanted this implemented. So with that in mind, we said, okay, this fits really well with our shop floor viewer. So for those who are familiar with the shop floor viewer, it's basically our web-based work instruction display application. It started as a work instruction display application and has since matured to showing the work instruction, collecting data about the unit that the operator is working on, collecting critical information about parts, about tools, about steps that they're performing, tracking how long it's taking each operator to perform their work, and so on, right? So that accessibility to the shop floor viewer is where we decided to add this, the ANDON feature. So, we are not calling it ANDON per se, but we are calling it hot issues. So a critical issue on the line. We are allowing the operator on the line to file this as they're looking through the work instructions. So I think one of the features that was important as to why this should be from the shop floor viewer was, an ANDON in general is someone operating or pulling a cord to turn on a light, or creating an alert that way. And so you can see here from the customer, that was just to raise an alert, but tracking it down to which unit I was working on, which activity in that unit caused this issue, which part was I consuming, what tool was I using, which step was I on, right? All of those lower level details that are critical in future analysis of figuring out why we had to stop the line or, raise this high level of urgency is valuable, right? That's what you want to go back and see. Am I having an issue with the process that was being performed? Am I having an issue with the part in general? Should I go back to my, fab team or the supplier that's sending that part to see what's going on? Am I having an issue with the resource or the fixture, the tool that I'm using? Is that where the problem lies? So I think rather than just raising a flag and turning on a light and having someone document this externally, on a pad or some other, system like that, tying it to the system that generates the work instruction, that generates the actual work content for the operator, and knowing that this is where the issues are coming from, that to me, that to them was the most valuable piece. So you can see here they said, earlier with the light tower, there was a process of informing others and tracking them down and so on. Now it's all integrated into the same system that I'm viewing my work instructions on. So as far as implementing this to the line, the key applications on the Proplanner side that are necessary, obviously the assembly planner, that's our main process planning database. This is where you create your line, your stations, your operators, and your activities for each operator. You would need the shop floor viewer. This is kind of the controller that the operator has to raise the issue while viewing the work instructions. And the third application is the Factboard. So Factboard is our ANDON Dashboard, and that's where we visually show the issue at the station, and we also have a Factboard view for the line leads or the supervisors, so they can look at the entire line and see which stations are calling out which issues, right? So those are three key applications or three applications that would be necessary for us to use the ANDON system. From an implementation standpoint, this is at the customer where we implemented the solution. You can see that they have multiple monitors at each station. They have a monitor at each station. That monitor by default is showing the status of the station. So basically a green bar in this particular station. These are all station 1s and 3 operators working in that station. But the green bar indicates that everyone's okay, everyone's working without any issues. And similarly, if this was turned on at each station, you would be able to from a distance see that monitor and or that display and gauge whether there are any issues on the line or not. If this was moved to a supervisor view, rather than just seeing station 1, you would possibly see all the stations on the line in one configured view. and the bar at the top will not only the bar at the top will change colors to show you what's going on. There will be a band around each station that is having the problem, so it's very clear to the supervisor or the line lead as to which station is having the problem. And I'll get into that a little bit as I show the application. So the process is fairly straightforward. The operator is signed on to shop floor viewer, looking at work instructions for a particular unit, or and going through their steps that they need to follow. Once they see an issue at the station, they basically create what we call a hot issue. They fill in some details about the hot issue that they're seeing a problem with, and then they file it. And as they file it, that ANDON board that I was showing you earlier has a big red bar on it. Now it shows there's a problem at this station. It has a bar around the operator that filed the issue, so you know which particular person to go to. In case you're looking at a line with a station with multiple operators, so you can walk up to that person and see what's going on. And not only that, it's a two-way communication. So once someone files an issue from the shop floor viewer, all of the details that are captured by the shop floor viewer are shown on the dashboard. If one were to click on that little icon that shows that there's an issue, and you can see the details filed by the operator, so you know what's going on, even if you're at the end of the line or sitting in your line lead area where you're just monitoring the stations. So it's a very interactive tool. It lets the operator file the issue. It lets the line lead and the supervisor look at all the details. And so this was another reason why there was a lot of benefits seen by the customer. We are now allowing you to categorize the issue. So it's a smarter way of filing a problem on the line rather than just saying, missing a part or missing tool. You can go down and say, I'm having an issue with, and categorize your different problems. You can say quality problem, logistics problem, engineering problem, and so on. You can even categorize the severity that it's gonna stop the line, or it's gonna stop me alone. So you can differentiate between those steps. And if you're signed into a unit, it's automatically tracking the serial number or the unit that you're working on and associating the issue to it, right? So it knows that this issue came from this unit, which was this configuration, these options and so on. So you have that association back to what type of units are causing this, that is making this issue come up. So, getting the categories of why this is happening and getting down to that level of detail, I think gives a lot of clarity to the engineer as to why, why these problems are happening. Once you see that issue, so this is on the line leads view, you can click on that, you can get all the details tagged to the unit, and you can either address it by, closing it yourself and addressing and closing the issue, or you can have someone go down to the line and close the issue once the solution is in place. So that's really the process of filing the issue, closing the issue, and all of the steps in between that are required to track the issue. You can see another thing that we're doing is we're tracking the actual downtime itself, which is also a lot of value. If I have a problem on the line and my line went down for so many minutes, or my particular operator wasn't able to operate for so many minutes, we're tracking that. We're putting it in a bucket of its own so that you can see the total amount of time the unit spent at the station and how much of that time was value added or actual work being done versus how much of the time was downtime. So you can differentiate between the two and get to more root cause analysis. So, the data that is being captured is again of a lot of value here. You can, as I said, you can differentiate between the type of issues. You can set the severity. You can put details about the issue itself. You can track the downtime, and so from the customer, as you see, being able to go back and analyze that data and look at patterns and so on in that data, so that you can go back and resolve, take bigger action in resolving that issue, is another key element to this ANDON board. So with that being the case, I would like to jump into the application. So again, for those who are familiar with the shop floor viewer, all I'm showing you here is our test environment. I have a set of units that I'm working on. As I sign into a unit, the application is going to take me into that particular unit, show me the work instructions tied to that unit. So this is me, the operator on the line, coming in, picking up my tablet and signing on to a unit that I need to work on. And so typically the unit is in front of me. I'm either selecting from a list here, or I'm scanning the serial number of the unit that's in front of me, and I'm shown my set of instructions for that. Right? Again, it's a test environment, so it's not a lot of data, but I just wanted to show the workflow here. So I select my station and my serial number, and I then select my activity that I need to work on. Immediately asks me that I want to sign on to the activity. I do, and now I'm shown work instructions that I need to perform while I'm working on this unit. So I'm at a station, I'm working on that model, that particular serial number, and these are the steps that I'm supposed to perform. Now, at the same time, I have a display on my line or at my station, right? So if I'm just operator one, right? So let me just go back and show you where I signed in. So I signed into station PPS1, and now I'm operator 0, right? Now, if I look at my dashboard, I have a view just for that. So if I'm looking at, if I'm at the station, that's all I'm seeing, right? That's all the view that's on top of my workstation, because I'm the only operator working there. And as I was showing you in my email earlier from the client, there'll be one such board at each station showing the status of that station. So that's my ANDON view for that station. If I'm the supervisor, as I showed you earlier, I probably want to look at all my operators at all my stations, right? So I'm seeing that kind of view that shows all the stations in one view, so that I can figure out which station's having the problem. So those are the two. I mean, the configuration is up to you as to what makes sense to see. Some folks may be responsible for just a couple of stations. Some folks may be responsible for the entire line. So you can choose the stations you want to see. Now I'm going through my work instructions, and I see a problem, and I can file an issue right here, right? I can, I can say there's a quality issue. I can say that this is a critical item. I can put a comment about it, missing part 1. So I can type in all this detail, and say, okay, I'm filing my ANDON call right now, right? So I do this. As soon as I do it, it says there's an active hot issue going on at your station. It prevents me from working further because I filed a critical issue. And by doing that, if you see right as I do that, my Factboard also changes. We now have a big red bar in my view. It's showing me exactly which operator on the line is facing the issue. It puts a blinking cycle time on it to know that my work has stopped because I'm not able to continue. Now, if I'm the line lead sitting at my own station or my office, I can click on this and I can look at the issue that was filed. It's telling me it's a quality issue, was filed on this particular unit. These are the details that the operator filed. And just to be clear, these issues, again, going back to the customer that we're working with, can be codes, QR codes that if I have a simple scan, I can just scan and have a predefined text come in here so that I can categorize my issue easily that way. If you're not going to click through the options, but this works fine for them. It's a few selections. They've selected, they file in some details, and now this is being tracked. My supervisor is able to see what issues going on, and at this point, if the supervisor says, "I know what to do this," make some calls, get someone out there with the correct set of parts. I can just close this issue, and as I close this issue, it goes back. My Factboard goes back to normal. And if I were to refresh this page, let me just close here. If I were to refresh that page, it would take it away from my screen as well and start my clock back again for me to continue working on that unit. So that's the basic interaction between the operator signed into a unit and the Factboard. Causes the alert, stops my work, puts in a display of what issue was reported, and lets everyone look at it. The other place that I can find an issue is if I'm on the line and I see there's a problem with the work being performed, I can just file a hot issue right here. Okay, and it's basically me saying that there's a problem on the line, and I can just click through and I can fill out those details, and I can create that issue also. So two different avenues. I can go through the unit and have the operator file it, but if I see other issues on the line that I need to stop the line or stop work on the line, I can fill out those details and file the issue as well. At any point in time, if I have a lot of open issues on that particular station, I'll be able to see it, whether I'm, whichever view I'm in, whether I'm in the shop floor viewer or I'm on the dashboard. So if anyone wants to analyze what's going on, they can look at it, they can see when it was open and which of those have still not been closed and take appropriate action that way. So that is it from a presentation standpoint. I will leave it up to questions from anyone.
You do have one question from JC in the chat. He asked, are these hot issues filed by category for review so it can easily be reviewed to find common issues?
Absolutely, yes. So all of that data that's being captured while the issue is being filed or after the issue is closed, etc., is all dumped into our shop floor database. So we can extract the entire transactions that the operator did on the line, dump it out to as a data set for you to do analysis on, or you can create those reports. We can create custom reports that dump out certain parts of that data. But at the end of the day, we are tracking when the operator sent into a unit, when the first downtime issue occurred, when it was resolved, and when the operator finally signed off the unit. So every break or every issue that is filed in between is tracked in its own bucket, and the entire time that the operator spends with the unit is available for you to analyze, broken down by actual work being performed versus any kind of downtime that took place. So I think our experience is best to just extract the data and give it to the customer so that you can do your own charting and analysis with it. If there are some pieces that you would like to track and have as standard reports, we can discuss with everyone and see if we can do that. But at the end of the day, that data is all available for you to do analysis on.
Okay, and you have one other question. Someone had asked, is Factboard available now?
Yes, Factboard is available as a solution, as an offering from Proplanner now, yes. So the three solutions that I said, and they are all available, are Assembly Plan and Shop Floor Viewer, which is authoring and viewing, and Factboard is kind of a reporting solution that we originally had intended it for, but that's where ANDON fits in best, because it's not sitting on top of these solutions, it's reporting the data out, and in this case, it just happens to be an ANDON call. Yeah.
Okay, and it looks like we have another question from Dave. Feel free to go ahead.
Yeah, thanks. I just wanted to mention a couple of things about ANDON as well. ANDON actually operates from a separate server. That server can be located, in an environment that would allow for access anywhere in the world. I mean, it's using the internet. It could be just intranet, it could just be inside your firewall, or it could be external. But I also wanted to mention that the ANDON views that Vando was showing, are totally a thin client view. So cell phones, tablets, computer screen, it could be in your factory, it could be in your line, it could be on a TV screen mounted in the factory, or you could, as you see here, or it could actually be a manager in another building in another state watching the status of a line and reacting, or somebody in COVID working from home trying to address line issues and watch and monitor the line from their living room. So the ANDON system, the ANDON server, is basically this view on a total web browser that allows you to learn what's going on. I also wanted to mention about the Factboard ANDON system is that these alerts that Bondo mentioned are coming from shop floor viewer to the ANDON display. Those alerts are essentially kind of like a web service transaction. What that means is that you can have other devices, other software applications besides Proplanner's shop floor viewer generate alerts to Factboard. Okay, so let's say you have a machine that's controlled by a custom software program, maybe something you even wrote, and if that machine goes down, you want an alert sent to the ANDON display. Now that machine isn't using shop floor viewer. There may not even be a person at the machine. It's a completely automated, auto-generated alert to ANDON. It could be a PLC, it could be a DC torque tool, it could be a truck driver using another software application, you know, driving down the road with a Wi-Fi access that had an accident, and you want to throw an alert to the ANDON display about an issue. So the ANDON system, Factboard, as we call it at Proplanner, is a separate server or a separate software application that's essentially receiving what we call JSON calls, JavaScript object notation is what it stands for, but it's essentially a text file that's generated by a software application running on any device anywhere in the world, can send this alert to Factboard. So what Bondo was showing was obviously where the alerts are coming from Proplanner's shop floor viewer, and he's showing you how we see the status of those resources, those operators, those stations, but they could be any resource in your organization, and the alerts could come from any device, software program, or tool in your organization. So the opportunities for Proplanner's ANDON board to be, if you will, more, you know, be bigger, if you will, have a broader footprint of alerting you to problems in your organization is much bigger than just the final assembly line as we often see it from Proplanner's perspective.